Hi and welcome to Knit All the Things. My name is Laurel. I'm also known as West Maven on Instagram, Ravelry, and here. If you're new, this is a space where I talk about all the things I'm knitting, all the things I want to knit, all things yarn, just all the things. And if you're returning, welcome back, Knitting Bestie. I can't wait to catch up with you. In this episode, we are going to talk about a finished sweater. I finished this sweater. I didn't properly read the directions, and so I am gonna have to frog it a little bit before it will be all the way done. I also finished a scarflette, and I understand why people like these tiny projects because they are very satisfying, and this one especially just hit all the marks. I cannot wait to share with you some of my future knitting plans. So grab your knitting, get cozy, and let's go. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what I'm wearing. This is my Pina Colada sweater. This is a pattern by Laura Zucate. I knit it using Isayer Alpaca 1 in the black color, and then I also used Yarn Nouveau's Sport Base in the color Sapphire. And I saw this in person at Flock 2 years ago now and had to knit it. The biggest modification I made was dropping the sleeves and just finishing it off with some ribbing. This makes it really airy, and it's great for kind of warmer, not too warm, but maybe if you're going to be somewhere and you're going to be inside, you could wear a little jacket, be warm when you're outside, and then when you come in, have a nice cooler top. So it's really nice for that. It is completely all intarsia. So you knit it from the bottom up, and then you split for front and back, and it's a lot of work. It was a ton of work, and it was a ton of fun, but I'm so happy it's done. I busted this out for Flock, which if you are interested, I'm going to make a separate video of my haul and my experience there. So that's there if you want it. If you don't want it, then don't watch it. Okay, so let's talk more about my project. So first up, I finished my Aureliano sweater. And the reason I am not wearing it right now, if you see the previous episode, I tried it on and it comes right to my hip bone, and just the ease of the sweater that I chose, I want it to be just a little bit longer so that I can actually tuck the sweater if I want. And so because of that, I also did not properly read the instructions, so the body should have been longer anyway. And so I'm going to rip back to this last motif. There are some short row shaping in the back, but I'm gonna rip back to the last motif and add one more motif, I think, and that will be perfect for me, and then do the ribbing again. So double mohair, that'll be fun, I'm sure. I don't think it'll be that bad, but it is what it is. I love this. I tried it on. I would have probably just worn it the way it was, but I also know myself, and I know if I'm tugging on something, it's going to make me not like the garment because I kind of made that mistake. So I made this out of Hobby and Amaze mohair silk, and I used the colors Winterfell, Smoke, Direwolf, and Mist. And I have all of this listed below if you want. I really can't say enough about the yarn. It was really a pleasure to knit, and I really enjoyed just every bit of it. This color work is so memorizable that it's very fun. I also actually, you guys are gonna make fun of me, but I actually, somewhere in here, ended up having to rip back also because I had put an extra row in and it was making the motif too large. So I want this to be perfect because I really want it to be perfect, and I want it to be perfect because I want it to be something I wear all the time, and I also know that it is such a precious sweater to me that I really want it to be right. This can be found in the Memory Lane book. This is a pattern by Claudia Quintanilla, and she also has kits, so if you want one of the original colorways, you can get that as well. So again, I love this. I'm gonna fix it and then I will wear it the next time. I just couldn't get it done in time, especially with the Sacred Sheep Festival this previous weekend. I just didn't have time. So that will get done. I'm really excited for it. Also, I don't know if you guys notice or not. You probably do, especially if you've been here a bunch. I am filming at night, which I never do. I normally film in the early part of the day, and just because I wanted to get this done and it's kind of a little bit of a late video, I just wanted to film now. So we've got a little candle, a little tea, setting up the vibes, the mood, but it's a little different. If you were like, something seems different, you're right. So, my next finished object. I finished I believe this is called Painting with Beads Scarf. It is a pattern by, I think it's Poppe Vergara, and she does a lot of beading in her knits, and I've wanted to knit something that had the focus on the beads. I've knit other things that I've added beads to instead of baubles, but I really wanted this to be the to knit something that's the focus. I used Toho beads in the size 6-0, and I really like how it turned out. So this is the center of the scarf. I'll kind of talk a little bit about, so that's the center, and I just kind of actually picked the colors after I'd knitted for a while, the ones that I liked. And then when I went to, the way that the pattern is you do one kind of charts on one side, the top of the scarf to the middle, and then from the bottom to the end, you do another set of charts, but the charts are essentially mirrors of each other. And so for that reason, I decided to mirror up my motifs. So for example, this motif, I switched the beads. So the shiny beads on this one are on the outside with the matte beads on the inside, and then I reversed it. And I did that with each of the motifs because I just wanted something a little bit different to keep it interesting. And I had a lot of fun. This took me 2 days to knit. It was super fast, and the other part of it was, the beaded part was the fun part. So I just kept wanting to get to like the next bead section so I could add beads. And so the in-between sections, which are not that big in between the motifs, went by super fast because I was just trying to jump to that next section. It fits really cute around your neck. You can tie it, you can wrap it twice, or wrap it twice, and then tie it if you want. You can wrap it once. And I had this tied really cute the other day, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it off the cuff. I did it kind of almost like a tie, which I really liked. And then I wore it, and you can wear it in your hair. Do it as a headband, which I think would be super cute. And then I actually wore it as a bow on the top of my head for the festival, and I think I'm gonna try to show that, but maybe not in this video. Maybe I'll post a picture or something. But it was so fun to knit. You knit from the small side, you do increases till you get to the middle, and then you do decreases to the end. And I really like, I haven't made any of the small scarves yet, so I haven't done a Sophie or any of those very popular patterns. I haven't done. So this was my first small scarf, and the fact that it took 2 days with all the beading, I thought was a super fast project. So I really can't imagine knitting one of the small scarves as on their own. I'm sure it's super fast. The yarn that I used was leftover Spin Cycle, dyed in the wool in the color Mizuzu. And this color has the skein that I got had a very subtle color change in a very, very big gradient. So you can kind of see here the two different colors, and it just really goes from the light to the dark in the whole scarf. So it's very, very slow changing color. But I thought it was kind of fun because when you tie the ends together, you kind of get to see the difference, but it's just subtle enough. And I really loved this yarn. I used black coral from mohair from Yarn Nouveau. Again, this was just leftover. I had used it in a shawl, And so I just wanted to use some more of it because I had it and it looked really nice with the yarn. And yeah, I really can't say enough nice things. I will definitely be making another, at least one or two more for gifts. I think they're very chic. I previously was a flight attendant and we had to wear scarves. And so I think I just have this, like, especially the little, like, tie to the side is, like, so second nature to me. So it's just one of those things. I will say I did block it. It does tend to curl a little bit, and I probably could do a better job blocking it and it would probably curl less, but it's not too bad. It was very quick to dry and all that. And here, let me see if I can show you. This is really cute. So again, there's like the two opposite colors. I just thought it was like another way to keep it interesting when I was knitting. It was just to like switch those up. So I really enjoy it. It's a nice little accessory. You also could tie a really cute bow. Let's see if I can do this really quick. Tie a cute bow and put it on your bag for the... is another way of kind of just having it on there. So it's just a fun little cute pattern. I really like it a lot. And again, I will definitely be making more of these. So the beads themselves, I would say you're gonna need, I think she says it in the pattern how many you're gonna need. I used probably 8 colors, and I used like half of a tube, like they come in tubes, and I used about half of a tube. So if you did 4 colors, you would just need the 4 colors. Yeah, so keep that in mind. I think it would be really pretty to do a white one with pearl beads, like pearl and crystal beads. I think would just be so pretty. So yeah, I have a lot of ideas now on what else I can do. How you do the beads is when you're knitting, you knit up to the point where there's going to be a bead. You take that stitch and hook it with a crochet. You put a bead on a crochet hook, teeny tiny one, and then you hook the stitch that is next, and then you pull the bead down onto the stitch, replace it back onto your needle, and then just knit it like normal. So it does slow you down a little bit as far as like placing the beads, but it's so fun to see how that like takes shape. And there's not very many stitches in a row, so you're not really, you're only doing the repeat for, let's see, this one's like 6 rows. So you have a little crunch of rows, and then you have like just stockinette. So it's really fun. I highly recommend it. Again, it's a pattern by Poppy Vergara. I'll link everything below. And again, can't say enough nice things. I had so much fun knitting it just because of something different. Okay, so besides coming back to this and frogging it and finishing that up in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to cast on a brand new knit. And I will show you this yarn. I purchased, I don't know if I showed this one on the podcast or not, so forgive me. But I purchased this Cory Confetti from La Bien-Aimée. This was a colorway that they got new colorways, so this one was on sale. So I bought enough to do a cardigan or like a cabled cardigan. And I really like this a lot. It a little bit reminds me of my other champagne cardigan that I have. And so I'm not sure what pattern I'm going to use this for. One that's come to mind is the Granny Cardigan by Hoki Locatelli. I think it's really cute. Or even, Norland has I think it's called the Book Club cardigan, which I saw a couple of recently. So I'm not sure exactly what this will be, but it definitely will be a cardigan because I think this yarn really lends itself to a really nice feel as far as warmth, lightness. It kind of could go with anything with all the different colored speckles. So I think it could be really nice in a cardigan. But I'm not 100% sure on which cardigan I'm going to knit with this. The other thought was to do a second champagne cardigan and add mohair. And the reason I would add mohair, because this is a DK weight yarn, the pattern is a DK weight pattern. However, with my first one, I added a mohair strand to the sweater, and it fits more like a jacket. Like, it's definitely has more heft. I kept the same gauge, but it was a tighter gauge because I added that yarn to it. And so it did make the gauge kind of a tighter feeling gauge. And so when I wear it, it feels more jacket-like, which I like a lot. So that is another option. And I will have from this sweater a lot of leftover grays. And so I was thinking it might be really pretty to do a gradient of the mohair with just held with this. So let me know what you think of that. Because maybe I'm being crazy on that one. Maybe I should just not do that at all and knit it as is. Or maybe I should just get more mohair and just do all one color. I don't know. I think a gradient could be really fun. Especially if I plan it out right. Like, and I would do it dark to light because I like the darker colors closer to my face. And so I would pick a darker gray and then to a lighter gray. So we'll see. I don't know for sure that that's the way I'm going to go, but I'm leaning towards that. And maybe I will just do a plain, like another champagne cardigan and then do the gradient. So I love this yarn. I think it's so pretty and I want the yarn to shine as well. So I think it would also look nice in cables, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. So the next knit that I'm going to cast on that I'm really looking forward to, like I have everything together. It's all ready. I just need to cast it on, is the sock pattern by Tracy Miller, the Happy Place socks. I have, since she released this pattern, I have had this yarn sitting all together, ready to go. It just needs to be cast on. So hers are so cute and happy and cheerful and bright colors, but you know I have to do it the moody way that I like to do things. So I have some leftover yak, I think it's like a merino yak yarn. And I have a bunch of leftovers. I did a soldatina and I think I had another project, but I'm not 100% sure. So I had some of this kind of yak silk softer yarn. A dark brown, kind of a taupe. This might actually be from my Feel Good shawl. I'm not 100% sure. Got a little chunk of that. There's more. And then I have this. So I thought I would make some sort of moody situation happen. I'm going to try to hold all these colors together. My hands may not get it, but I think it would be fun. So they're going to be socks. They would be my very first DK socks. I really typically like to knit the regular fingering weight socks, but I do want to give this pattern a try. I thought like it will be the pattern that really like sparked interest on DK socks for me. So I'm really looking forward to this. And like I said, as soon as she put the pattern out, I grabbed all these yarns and put them all together so that I could make these. And let me show you what I mean. So I also have more that I could make. So I really want to make these socks. I need to make them happen. And this would be like probably the second pair, more along the lines of the like happy colors. So that's where I'm at with those. I really need to cast these on. These ones need to be wound up, but so that's why I think I'll do the other ones first. But I really am looking forward to that, like so much. And I have been like, I just need to put it, I need to grab the needle. I think that's literally the only thing stopping me is like grabbing a needle to get started. Come on, I really need to get my act together. I really need cardigans, you guys. I looked through all of my knitting. I've only made one. I have so many pullovers in the winter, especially like running kids to school and all these things. Like I just need that one layer to throw over whatever. And so I have been really considering I need more cardigans. One of the cardigans that I have been wanting to make is the Eva cardigan by Petite Knit. And I just liked this. It looked very simple and like very classic. And so when she had come out with it, I thought I would actually do it in the same dark blue that she had. I have the yarn and everything for it, but I haven't cast it on, and I'm not sure why, other than it's just, maybe that navy is just the part that's like tripping me up a little bit. So I was lucky enough to get some yarn from a D-stash, and it is more Corey worsted. You guys notice the theme yet? So it's more Corey worsted, and it's in the color Coquillat. Ooh, I know I'm saying that wrong. I'm sorry. But it's the red color. I'll put the name on the screen. And the reason I got so excited and this came up, I was getting ready for the podcast and I was grabbing all the yarns that I wanted to share and all these different things. And when I grabbed this, I was like, wait a second. I know I bought buttons. I knew I bought red buttons because I thought, oh, wouldn't this be cute? Like just a bright button to go with something like this. But it looks so good. I really like it. I loved these buttons when I found them. So these buttons are from a vendor called Textile Division, and they actually were at Sacred Sheep, but I bought these during a yarn crawl. So if you're in Portland and you missed out on the buttons, then probably, I think when I talked to her, she was definitely planning on coming back, but at Weird Sisters Yarn Shop, it'd be like probably in February, I think, when they do the Rose City Yarn Crawl, they will have the button people back. So keep an eye out for that. You can also follow them on their Instagram because they'll put where they're going to be because they're not like in a shop exactly. And I think there might be one shop in Portland that carries some of their buttons, but they're all like vintage found buttons, which is like my favorite thing. And these particular ones have a little bit of a, I wonder if I can get one off. I don't think I can get a part. They have almost like a translucence to the button. So part of it has almost like a translucence and part of it is more of the, like an opaque. So I thought that was really cool. So I think that will look amazing. I got really excited. As soon as I remembered that I had the buttons, I was like, oh, I probably have to do this cardigan now. Like, I think it's a done deal. I think these look pretty good. They're definitely going to stand out a little bit, but I think not too much. I think it's like just the right amount of standing out for a button. Is that a thing? You don't want the buttons to take over the show of your beautiful knitting. But yeah, I really have been looking forward to casting this on and just having another project on the needles. I finished up my kids' sweaters recently, and I have been doing a lot of other like non-knitting activities that have been taking up my knitting time. For Sacred Sheep, I've been making these. Okay, so for Sacred Sheep, I wanted to make some things in case I ran into any knitting besties, so I could give them a little gift. And so I've been making these progress keepers / stitch markers with gummy bears. I used to make a ton of jewelry, and so this like let me play with that a little bit, which I haven't done in a while, so it was super fun. This one I put on a stitch marker just so you can see a little bit better, but that's like a progress keeper. Little gummy bear. It's fun. I really enjoyed making them. I probably will do another batch of them in case I just like run into people while I'm out and about at a yarn shop or something. But I really enjoyed making them, like more than I thought I would. I was like, oh, I remember doing this. It's fun. It's fun doing little jewelry, teeny tiny things. So I was working on that, and I worked on making my kids' Halloween costumes, which was super fun. It's also very time consuming. I'm a perfectionist and I wanted them to be really nice. I also wanted them to be super functional. So I used a suit as like the base because in Portland it gets super cold. I don't think it's ever been like a decent warmness on Halloween. So I knew it was going to be cold, and it ended up being cold and rainy. So there was that. But I wanted the costume to at least be warmish. So I started with a sweat suit and then used cheesecloth and fabric scraps to make zombie costume. I'll insert some sort of picture of what I'm talking about here. And that was really fun. And then just getting ready for Sacred Sheep. And because I'm doing a separate video, I won't go into too much detail. However, it was really interesting because I wanted to pick outfits for it, And part of me wanted to pick my most kind of crowd-pleasing sweaters, if you will. But what I ended up wearing, I did end up wearing this one of the days, and then I ended up wearing my scarf tied in my hair with my cravat sweater, which is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. I thought they went really well together because this one, instead of baubles, I did beads. I'm just gonna hold up the bag because it'll be easier that way. So that was, I used the leftover Mizuzu from this to make this. So I knew it was going to match like exactly. So I wanted to wear that. And I thought really long and hard because one of my more like popular knits, if you will, is my Fertigenzer, which is an Advent sweater that I did. And I just felt like it wasn't true to myself or like how I like to dress all the time. So I didn't wear it, which made me really consider when I'm purchasing yarn, when I'm getting these things, like, am I actually getting things that I'm going to actually wear? Because like this I will wear, but it'll be kind of like my special occasion sweater because I put so much time and effort into it. I think it will be on the like more precious side of things. I would say this one's also very precious. And so I've just been kind of considering like when I go to sit down and knit something, like what do I need? What is speaking to me in a color sense, or what is like sparking joy? And so I actually got very excited about this red cardigan, the Eva cardigan, because I haven't had that spark. And I don't think it's a lack of knitting mojo. I just think it's the perfect storm of the perfect pattern and the perfect yarn and everything kind of coming together. Because when I see something that I want to knit, I instantly get this picture of what the final knit will look like. Like I look at the picture and go, or the picture in a magazine or on the computer of a pattern, or if I see somebody in person, I instantly start to think like, what is this going to look like? Like, what is mine going to look like? And I can instantly picture it finished. So I think sometimes when I just can't get that picture, it's like not the right time. It's not necessarily the wrong pattern or the wrong yarn. It's just like not the right time for it. So I have had the Eva pattern since it came out. I've had the other yarn and it's just been sitting there looking sad. It's beautiful yarn. It's a merino yak silk blend. So it's a gorgeous yarn. When it's knit up, it's a little bit on the heavier side compared to like this. And I think that could have lent to like some of the hesitation. But again, just finding that balance. I don't know if you've experienced that where it's not necessarily not having knitting mojo. So like at the festival, I've been knitting on my half and half triangles wrap in super orange, and I think I left it upstairs, but it's not very far along. It's like this big. But that's kind of what I've just been knitting on, and I've been super happy just having like something to knit in my hands. So I'm just kind of leaning into that these days, and so feeling excited about the yarn and a project and the buttons. I think the buttons. Last time I had to pick buttons was for my other cardigan, and it felt like the hardest thing to do because I was having such a hard time finding buttons that I was like in love with. And so I'm really excited about this. I only need 4 of the buttons. So I'll have like 3 extra buttons. So let's see how it turns out. And if I have 3 extra buttons and somebody is like in need of 3 buttons, let me know. But that's what I'll be working on. So probably after this, I'm going to quickly make my Sacred Sheep wrap video. I'm really excited. I hope you guys enjoy it. I have been working really hard on it, and so that's one that I'm really excited to share with you guys, as well as the gift knitting video. At the end of this, I'll share that with you as well, because those are fun. I have fun making those videos. If there's anything else that you guys want to see from me, please let me know. With that in mind, I wanted to quickly answer a question that I got from you guys. It was from my fall knitting patterns video, and I thought it was a really, really interesting question. So Jody says, I'm extremely confused as a new knitter just learning, why does 2 sport weight held together equal a DK weight, but a sport weight and a lace weight equal an Aran weight? I feel like the math is off. Is it like some people say hold 2 lace makes an Aran as well? Like, what's up? So this is an awesome question because when I was new, I actually had the exact same, like, I don't understand what's going on with the different yarn weights and yarn substitutions and all these things. Like, I don't get it. So to hopefully answer your question, yarn weight is important, and we'll get to that in a second. But a lot of times when a designer says, oh, it's an Aran or oh, it's this, they're going by the gauge. The gauge is how many stitches per inch or per 4 inches, depending on, normally it's 4 inches, but just to give an example. So if a designer is saying that it's 20 stitches per 4 inches, then typically they just say it's a DK weight, regardless of whatever yarn they use. I have knit sport weight yarn to make a DK weight pattern. I have used a fingering and a lace held together to make a DK weight pattern. I have used 2 lace to make a DK weight pattern. So sometimes they like to give the yarn weight, if you will, to kind of also help explain the gauge. You can also, in some cases, it will really depend. You could knit it in the 2 lace weight held together, or you could use a Aran weight yarn single. So sometimes it's also giving you another option of weight to use for your yarn. I'm trying to think of an example that I might have here. Oh, I'll just tell you an example. So I did another sweater by Caitlin Hunter. And so the sweater weight was a fingering weight sweater, and it had a section like this of color work. And in the color work, I chose to, instead of just holding the fingering weight, I threw in a mohair. So what that meant to me and for the pattern is that I then started watching my gauge really carefully, because I didn't want the gauge to change to a larger weight because I now have a thicker yarn in theory, right? So I decided to just really keep an eye on that gauge. One thing I could have done if I was noticing the gauge was too big with the extra yarn, I could have gone down a needle size, which would have made my fabric thicker. So that's also something to keep in mind. So I think sometimes what the designers are trying to do for you, they're trying to help you in your yarn choices. One huge big difference that I found was using the website yarnsubstitution.com. That isn't it, I'll put it on the screen. But I like to look up the original patterns yarn that they used. So let's say a designer used La Bien-Aimée Corey worsted, which is a DK weight yarn. So we'll forget that. But it's about a DK weight, but you can also knit it in a worsted gauge. Like, it works kind of for both because it does bloom. So if you go to yarnsubstitute.com and you were to type this in, it's going to give you other options that will work. And sometimes that helps. It held single. So sometimes it might come back and say, oh, you can use Cascade 220, and I'm making this up. But you can use like XYZ yarn. It's going to tell you like why they're similar and how they're different and how much yarn you're going to need. So that's very helpful. But it also will help you start to get comfortable and understand like the different weights of yarn and what it can mean. I would say, and please don't quote me on this, but I think the general rule is 1 lace weight and fingering is DK. You like skip the sport. Lace weight is sport. Fingering is worsted, and then that's where I get lost. I think maybe a DK and a lace would be a worsted / Aran. That's where I'm a little bit, but that's kind of the general rule of thumb. If you go to your local yarn store, I'm sure they'll be happy to help you figuring out yarn choices if you need to. And of course, I'm always happy to like throw in my 2 cents if you message me. But I hope that helped a little bit. It's not necessarily, again, the yarn being different gauges. It's just how they're deciding to knit it and what the fabric is going to be. So again, there's a very popular pattern, the ranunculus. You can knit that in Aran weight yarn. You can also knit it in lace weight. It's going to just depend on the fabric that you get and that you like. But the important thing is that you get the gauge. So if you want to get gauge and it's very flowy and loose fabric, do that. But you're going to get it using like a fingering and a mohair or a couple of lace weights together. So I hope that helps. Hopefully that didn't confuse you more. Again, thank you for the question. I hope that I could answer it a little bit there for you. That's at least my understanding and knowledge and how I approach it, if you will. A lot of times, if you swatch, I like to see if it's even going to be a thing that I'm going to like. You also want to keep in mind, like, as you're swatching, if you remember me talking about my other, let me just grab. So earlier I was talking about my champagne cardigan, which is, here it is. And I knit this in the same gauge, but I added a mohair. And so this sweater itself, compared to probably the sweater that she knit, the designer knit, is much heavier. It's also a thicker fabric, because I stuck with gauge so that I could make sure that I got the size that I wanted. But because I did that and I added that extra yarn, it ended up being a much tighter gauge. In theory, this probably, like the average fabric that people like, I probably could have gone up like a needle size, and then I would have had to figure out the various sizes for my size of sweater. So that is my answer to the question. I really hope to help. I'm gonna try to get that yarn wound up and start something. Start some socks, start a cardigan, start everything. I really am in that mood. So that is what I'm gonna be working on till I see you guys in about 2 weeks. So if we're not yet knitting besties, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video. It tells YouTube that other fiber enthusiasts like yourself enjoy this type of content. Until 2 weeks from now, make some yarn magic. Bye!